Yep, I got you. All right,
Yeah,
everybody. We
cool.
are here and live. We've got Danny Alba. Thanks again for everyone tuning in. We've got a special podcast for you guys today. Danny here has created something that hasn't been seen on the market, and I'm really excited for him to talk about that. I love when people find little niches that they basically say, I can do it better. And you go and you make a product, and you don't just talk about it, you don't complain, you go and you problem solve. And it's I love that idea. So Danny, who are you in a nutshell? I mean, I just barely met you, so I don't know you very well, but I met you out at TAC San Antonio officially in person. We've kind of chatted back and forth over Instagram before that, but who are you?
Man, first of all, let me say I appreciate you inviting me to your podcast, man. I've been watching you, following you for a while, and had some pretty cool people on here. And I've listened. So all day long, I sit in the tractor all day. It's what I do full time. But I sit in the tractor, listen to podcasts all day. So I listen to your show and listen to everybody else's show. And man, you're doing a good job. And man, I appreciate you having me on. First off, uh, so you introduced me. My name's Danny Alba. I'm from Texas, Central Texas, born and raised. This idea that I have is pretty simple. It's basic. It came out of necessity, hunting in the backcountry, which is what I love to do. Which you know, everybody always asks, man, you're a Texan. What are you doing hunting in the mountains? Man, I've been hunting in the mountains in Colorado for 20 years. I've been hunting in Idaho since 2015. So, man, the mountains they're in me, man. I just can't get them out. I'll probably end up there soon or, one day. That's just my passion is hunting in the mountains. So, man, having this new, really, it's so dumb. I mean, it was just a simple idea that I had while I was hunting in the backcountry. And, uh, it was because I mean, if you walk in the backcountry and you hunted and you go walk into a stand, whatever, I don't care how much you work out, I don't care what kind of shape you're in. If you carry your bow and a pack and water and food and everything else for miles and miles and miles, something's going to wear you out. First thing's going to wear you out is your bow hand, your shoulder, your fingers, your hands, your all that stuff's going to start wearing out. So, and that's what was happening to me. So back in 2017, I was hunting the backcountry and I had this bow, this older bow, and it was super heavy, had a bunch of stuff on it. And I really didn't even like stabilizers, to be honest with you. I mean, to me, it's just something that sticks out of your bow and adds weight. That's basically, if you look across the market, that's every single stabilizer on the market sticks out of your bow and adds weight. That's all they do, period. So I had this idea while I was hunting. I was carrying my bow, and I had this old stabilizer that was digging into my forearm, both sides, right, and it was just causing irritation, and just causing my arms to wear out. Just carrying it and holding it, and back in the day, back in 2016, 2017, and before that, we didn't have all these fancy ways to hang your bow and clip your bow and do all this stuff where you could glass. So I was like, holding the bow and glassing and calling and doing all that stuff, so it'd wear you out. So man, I stopped, and because that thing was wearing me out after a couple of days, I stopped and I found a little stick. And I've told this story before, and everybody loves it just because it's so dumb, and it's so simple and how the idea came about. But I found this little stick that was shaped in a saddle, like a U, and I kind of broke it and cut it up with my pocket knife, and I zip tied it to the stabilizer I was using, and that's it right there. That's prototype number one. So I call that the Mach 1. So if you see this, you see these hard little deals right here. Those are what was digging into my forearm. I mean, you can see how that's going to irritate you. So I was carrying my bow like this, and those things were just digging in, digging in, digging in. And man, it was causing like an irritation. So when I found that, I stuck it on there, zip tied it, and that thing just sat in there, and it made it just so much comfortable. So that's where the idea came from, man. Just out of necessity, it worked, and I was like, well, matter of fact, it actually added just a little more forward weight. So I'm like, what? Well, why not? Why can't weights on every single stabilizer do something? If you're going to add weight to your bow, why not it do something? So, I mean, when I got back to the house, I started working on things and figuring out how I could build one. So I went into my shop, and this was prototype number 2. I call it the Mach 2 model. It was just a solid bar, solid aluminum bar, and I tapped it on the back so it would attach to my bow. I bent a piece of aluminum here and screwed it to it, and then wrapped it in paracord just for padding. And I put that on my bow, and I used that thing, man, probably for about a year and a half, from about 2018 season, 2019 season, somewhere around there. And I actually went to South Africa, and I had this on my bow, and I hunted in South Africa and killed animals with it and all kinds of stuff. And everywhere I went, of course, like it is now, like you do, like everybody that sees it, like, what the hell is on your bow? Everybody's always asking, what in the hell is that on your bow? Because you see it now, everybody sees it now, and everybody wonders what the heck is that thing, because it looks different. There's never been anything like it, which is, to me, still blows my mind, because it was so simple, man. It's just a saddle, really, is all it is. And, now the Mach 6 model is pretty awesome, does a lot of cool things. But just the fact that it was just a simple, basic idea, it's turned into what it is today. It still blows my mind, man. I'm just still, like, I don't believe it. I kind of got that imposter syndrome, I guess what they call it. It's just because it's shedding light on me. It's shedding light on the industry, and now I'm kind of, I take, I'm not on the American made bandwagon. I've always been that way. I've been that way my whole life. I'm hardcore patriot, hardcore American, big time, hardcore Texan. If you've been in Texas, you know how we are. We show off everything. That's just what we do. That's just the way it is here. So, everything's big here. We take pride in everything we do. So, I've always been that way. And even before all this that we have nowadays with American made stuff, it's for me, it just means more, So what I'm trying to do now with this company is shed more light on the American side versus just because I got a cool product, So I'm trying to use that as my soapbox, should I say, so I can figure out how I can bring more awareness to keeping everything in the United States. So I was told, man, I can't tell you, several people that told me that I can't build this here in America. I can't build it here. I can't make a profit. I won't make it in the market. There's too many competitors, too many people, blah, 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 on and on and on. And for a while, I'll be honest with you, I agreed with them. And I gave up for a minute. I had this model on my bow for 2.5 years, and then I made the Mach 3, and that was the one that I actually had, we started producing. So the Mach 3, which is a solid aluminum bar, and coated in plastisol PVC, and that's it. That's just a solid bar is all it was. So it and everybody, and that didn't, I mean, I got a little traction on it, but after that I just kept getting all these people. They're like, man, it's a pipe dream, and I gave in for a little while, and I gave up on it, which is kind of dumb of me because I don't ever give up on anything. But I just kept on the back burner because I kept it on my bow. I left it on my bow. Everywhere I went, everybody always wanted one. They always kept saying, what the heck is that on your bow? So I started pushing it more, man. And, I went from the Mach 2 to Mach 3 to Mach 4 model. And then I went to the Mach 5, which the Mach 5 one is when I really started getting on the map, when the Mach 5 came out, which was in end of 21, 2022, is when it really got on the map. And then there's some big guys in the industry that put it on their bow and started using it. And man, after that, it kind of really took off. And then they loved it, and they sent me messages that they loved it, and they'll never take it off, and it's the best freaking thing they ever seen, which is kind of crazy. And now I'm probably getting way ahead of myself, but now I'm just kind of like talking about it. Now I'm in the Mach 6, so to go from a stick, this little old deal, to the Mach 2, and then now we're in the Mach 6 model, which is the Mach 6 10-inch. So I really want to talk about it because when people see it, they say, "Oh, cool! It's aluminum bar with a saddle on it." Well, if you know manufacturing and you know machining and you know how to design this stuff on CAD and you understand all the little tolerances and the parameters and everything that goes into all these little circumferences and diameters, I mean, it's a lot, man. I'm telling you, it's a lot. To deal with all these little things that you try to, you send it out there, and then you get a couple critiques back, and then but the main feature of this, the main where the patent really lies at, is the saddle. So, and what's cool about this, I've had, man, when I went to the ATA show in January of this year, 2023, man, I can't tell you how many people ask me about, do I have a patent? So I'd have distributors come by, they come talk to me, can look at me, and then they talk, then they leave and they come back. Hey, you got a patent on that thing? I said, yeah, I do. It was pretty simple, pretty easy. I don't know if you've ever been through that process or heard about it. Uh, but to get a patent, everybody told me right off the bat, oh, you got to hire an attorney. Well, that attorney's going to cost you $8,000 in a one fee, and then you got to send your paperwork, and that's going to cost you another $8,000. So about 16 to 20 grand. Yeah, you might be able to get you a patent. Well, I was able to look up how to do this by myself online, the patent stuff, and man, I filed for an application back in 2017, 2018, and because this dumb little thing right here has never been designed, never been offered, never been drawn up, nothing in the patent registry. Man, I had this patent, not the patent pending. I had the patent number in about 6 months, and I did it all by
Wow.
myself for about $350, about what it cost. So, and that's that's what I'm saying. It just blows my mind that something so simple is turning into what it is today. I say what it is today because I've grown a lot, man. I think you've seen it if you've been watching. I don't have a lot of followers. People are like, oh, you only got, 16, 1,700 followers. Yeah, well, that 16, 1,700 followers is 16, 1,700 American bow hunters. That's a difference. That's a big difference between just having random people or bots or whatever it is.
Hmm.
You got 16, 1,700 American bow hunters that are following me and that like my product and that use my product and are thinking about buying it and that, like the people who use it. So that's a team, man. That's an army. I don't care how many people you got. That says something. And then there's a couple big guys in the industry that are following me and that use it. You've probably seen them, which is pretty cool. Uh, but on the Mach 6 model, so what I tried to do, well, not what I tried to do, what I did do, because just trial and error, uh, trying to build this thing and make it to where it'll go from just a useful component like a tool to something that's actually useful. It's a component and it has performance. So, my ultimate goal was, why can't the weights, if you're going to put weights on the front of your bow, weights on the front of your stabilizer, why can't they do something? So that's what I did with this saddle. So this saddle now is it's got it's a little thicker on the saddle, and then the plastisol PVC that's on the front is bonded, so that allows it to take any kind of vibration, any kind of dampening out, all this stuff that's transitioned from your bow, from your string stop into the riser, and then through this body and into the saddle. That's your main dampener, but it's also got dampeners inside the body. So the body's got neoprene and rubber mixed dampeners instead of regular old rubber, which if you've seen that old rubber stuff, you get that stuff hot and cold and hot and cold and it turns sticky and it just, it just don't, they fall out of there or whatever. This stuff is neoprene. So that stuff's darn pretty nice. And now I've got this quick connect system. I call it quick connect. It's not that quick, but it's got an M5 bolt here. And I'll show you how to use that. I call it the handle as well. And then this is the mule mount. So when you see this mule mount, it's the 5/16 by 24 bolt. But when you see this mule mount, I mean, this is machined from a solid piece of aluminum. So this was a solid piece that was put into a CNC machine and cut so you can actually see the radius in the back and see the recessed hole in the back for that button head. And then all these little holes are all lined up, basically scientifically, so they'll line up with the body of this thing. And that's it'll go either way, up, down, it's all lined up right. But I've been seeing a lot of people are mounting it like this, which the top of the mount, the mule mount goes where it lines up with the body, so all the holes match and everything's kind of matching. So, but that's called the mule mount. So the reason I made that is so on the Mach 4 model, Mach 4 to Mach 3, it had a solid bolt, just like every other stabilizer, right? Well, on every other stabilizer, it's round. So when you tighten it down, it don't matter where it stops and tighten it. It's all round, so it's all going to look the same. Well, this thing has to sit in a certain position. it's got to sit where the saddle's up. So whenever you tighten this thing down, you don't know where it's going to stop tightening. When you tighten it on a bow, it could tighten this way and it could tighten it up and it's here and there. So I was able to get a lock nut and put it on here where you could kind of, but it takes tools to do that. So I didn't want to deal with the tools. So that's the reason I made this mule mount here. I'm probably talking a lot, but that's the reason I made this mule mount. So the mule mount is made so you can attach it directly to the bow, and that positions the saddle upright. So when that goes in, everything's going to line up. This thing, the mount is tight; it's not going to move. So it's made so it'll line up your saddle the way you need it to go. And then we're talking about them tolerances and that radius right there. I don't know if you've seen the videos with CNC machine comes down, it cuts that radius to match the exact radius on the back of this mount. So there's no movement back and forth. Man, lots of little things that I had to end up trying to figure out to be able to do this. So when you put that mount on, you put your M5 bolt in and you tighten it up. That thing tightens down, and then on mine, so that it's sitting up on the bow like this. On mine, being able to move this handle, which I've been having issues with that lately, with people not figuring out how to use this handle. They're taking the screw out and trying to position the handle in a certain spot. Well, you don't do that. What you do is you pull this handle and it'll adjust and then lock into a certain place where you want it. So it's spring loaded. You pull that thing, adjust it, and then lock it back in place. So on this one, on my bow, I always keep it where it's up like this, because that gives you an option to, when you have your bow and you're hiking or whatever, you can hook it onto your pack, you can hook it in your pocket, you can hook it wherever you want, and the bow will hang on your person anywhere you want to. So that's another feature of that handle right there. And I've got my bow right here, and this is the way I keep it, so it'll hang, from my deal. Also, what it's used for, what I use it for, when I grip my bow when I'm shooting, all this stuff, I use it for a 3-point position. So I lock all these fingers, and I know when I touch that thing, my grip is in the same spot every single time I shoot. So everything locks in. They've got a little touch right there. I'm locked in my same grip. That's what I utilize that for. So a bunch of different cool features on that handle. So when you get into the body of this thing, these holes, people that I wanted it to have a cool look, and not just the actual reasoning behind these holes was to take weight out of the body. So to take weight out of the body versus it being carbon, it's aluminum. So in order to take weight out of it, I needed to drill holes in it. So instead of just going through all random, I gave it a pattern, I gave it a look, gave it a design, something that's going to kind of stick with me for a long time. So that took all the weight out of the body on the Mach 6. And then I left these here, so it adds a little more weight to the front. So, this thing is machined where it has all its forward weight in the front. So this thing actually, everybody else has screw-on weights, but you can actually do that on this one as well. It's another feature, another option for the stabilizer. But when you put it on your bow, I mean, I've seen, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 guys out of the thousands I've sold that have added weight to it, because it kind of just balances out. I mean, it's 6.5 ounces FOC. So 6.5 FOC on this thing. So it has like a more balanced out performance versus having that all that light weight, and then at the end drops off at the bottom. So it's got a little more gradual weight distribution than most other stabilizers because it's aluminum. It's got a little more forward weight. But if you want to add anything, it's tapped on the bottom 5/16 by 24. It's tapped in the front 5/16 by 24. People are adding weights to the bottom. People are adding stabilizers out the front end of it. And then again, it's tapped right here and right here with an M4. So that's to add a Picatinny rail. And I'm building more of those because I sold out when I made the Mach 5 model, when it came out with the pick rail, especially in Texas, they went like hotcakes because you can add a camera to it, you can add a light to it, you can add a bipod to it, you can add whatever you want to it. So, a pick rail is like a Barbie doll, add whatever you want to it. So That was the other cool option. And I'm building more of those to be able to put those back on the store and sell those, pretty soon. But uh, that's going to be be another cool item that I'm going to release pretty soon. But that's the Mach 6 model, man. I know there's a whole lot more I can get into on the Mach 6. All the little, what it took to make it. So, what questions you got so far? Sounds like I'm talking a lot. I'm gonna draw my
You're
big
good,
truck
man.
real quick.
Oh, you're awesome. No, you're good, man. It's that's definitely a lot. And let's kind of break down what you've discussed here. And first and foremost, the name of your company is Aim for a Pass Through. So the people that don't or haven't heard of that, I mean, the symbol's right above his head, and I'll leave the link down below for you guys to go check it out. But Aim for a Pass Through is the name of the company. And so, Danny loves the bow hunt, just like he mentioned. He's up in in Idaho and up out west just about every year. He goes to South Africa, like what he mentioned. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking for. And that's something that stands out to me, is someone that actually uses the products and comes up with something that, again, everyone was telling you can't really do it. And so there's a lot of reasons why people will say that. And I think it's kind of funny, honestly, when people say it, because either they've tried it and they failed and they're kind of tipping their hand to you that they failed and they gave up, or they're, I don't know, they're scared for you, which doesn't make sense, because if they're not investing their money and they're not doing this and that for you, then I don't know why it matters, why they couldn't tell you to just go do it. So
Right, and
it's
that's what
cool
they
that you
said. They
went
said I've
through.
seen it 100 times. They've said that. Every guy I talked to
Mm-hmm.
said I've seen this happen 100 times. Yeah, so you hit that right on the head.
Yep. Yeah. And it's really sad because, there's that famous saying that the graveyard is the richest spot in the world, because there's so many ideas that go to the grave with people, because either they were scared or they told their buddies not to do it or whatever it was. And those people
Right,
didn't overcome those hurdles like what you've done. And on
right,
top of that, you were kind of ramping things up in the middle of the whole pandemic and everything else that was going on too. So I know Texas didn't really let it affect it as much as many other places, but at the same time, it's still in a spot where a lot of people were pushing back. They were holding back. They're, trying to hold on to what they had. They didn't want to either invest or to do new things or try new things because of all the uncertainty. And I've noticed a kind of a trend of people like yourself that decided to take that head on and as a challenge almost, even though it wasn't necessarily a challenge directed at Danny, but you took that pandemic whole situation and said, I'm going to take this as a challenge. I'm going to go handle business. Right. And so you came up with this idea. I love the idea of the saddle. And just to say, for those of you just kind of not understanding how this works, Danny, you did a great job of explaining it. But I'll tell you from my personal experience, but just holding your bow, bows aren't necessarily light. And even if you have a carbon bow, it can be pretty hefty, especially if you put any type of stabilizers. Once you got your quiver on, full of arrows, you got your sight, you've got everything else, all the little thingamabobs that you're going to add to it. It can get heavy. And so, I always joke with people that that's why, I like to build up my shoulders in my traps, because then during hunting season, I can carry my bow wherever I want, not worry about it. Right. Well, it's still
right.
uncomfortable sometimes. So,
Yeah,
having the ability to put that saddle into your forearm, or right there where your forearm connects to your elbow, it made a huge difference. And even just the little bit that I held it at TAC San Antonio, it's super comfortable. And having hairy arms, there's a lot of things that can rub on the hair and kind of make it uncomfortable. The rubber that you've got on the end of that thing is not uncomfortable. It's very comfortable. And there are a lot of cool features. It's got the dampening throughout the whole system. It's got dampening built into the end. It's got the weight mainly focused at the end, and like you said, you can add more weights. There's some people, I don't understand it, but they like to weigh their bows down really heavy. I can get it. I understand it for target situations. I don't understand it for hunting situations. So, but
right.
that's an option, right? And so there's so many things that you've come up with, and it's from your own experience. It's not an idea that just popped into your head. You actually create. You've still got Gen 1, Mach 1, and it's cool to see that transition in just a short amount of time.
Right.
2017 to now is only 6 years. It's not a lot of time. And so
Right.
you've done a lot of work with that. So I think that's really cool. I personally, I don't really have any questions about it itself. I just love the idea that you found a problem and you went out and worked to fix it. So I guess first and foremost, like, you know, you said you drive tractors. That's what you do for your 9 to 5. Um,
Right.
what would someone, so say someone comes up with an idea like this. I mean, what was your process as far as uh, reaching out to people, getting people excited about this new idea that you're coming up in a saturated market of stabilizers? There's so many out there. And I mean, what was your, how did you even go about finding someone to machine this for you?
Well, you touched on it real quick. You really hit it right on the head, and I'll tell you what it was. It wasn't the fact that I was marketing that I have a cool product. Because there's, like you said, the market is saturated with stabilizers, and it's all about preference. So my main goal, after watching podcasts, learning learning how to market, do whatever I can to try to figure out, how am I going to make this thing go during the times we were in, and during COVID, like you said. And figured it out, and it was pretty simple. Solve a problem. If you can, you're selling to solve a problem. That was my main goal, and that's what I did. It wasn't because it was cool. It wasn't because it was American made. I was solving a problem, and everybody. I mean, you saw it yourself. While like you were at TAC, you saw it when you put it in your hand and you felt it, and right away you saw how comfortable it was. Every single person that grabs a hold of a bow that's got this stabilizer on it, as soon as that saddle rests in their forearm, the light goes off, and they just love it. And they just sit there and go, "Ah, why didn't I come up with that a long time ago?" You know? So solving the problem was the big go-to, and that's what really, you know, pushed it to where it's at today. And I say, where it's at today because in the past, since January of 2023, I've sold. I mean, I don't hold nothing back. I've sold over 2,000 of these stabilizers in all different lengths, and now I've got almost 20 dealers across the United States, and I'm producing these as fast as I can. I sell out almost weekly. Right now I'm sold out of 12 inch. I'm sold out of 8 inch. I'm almost sold out of 10-inch black. I'm sold out of the Origin model, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. So it was really solving a problem, man, is where it really took off. Uh, and I told you I sit in a tractor all day, which is really cool for me, because this I say I sit in a tractor. I own another company where I do land services. I got skid steers and do machines and road work and stuff. But sit in that machine, I think all day long, man. So I don't know if you sat in a tractor for 8 hours in a day. You think, and then you don't get to talk to nobody, but you listen to podcasts and you just think about ways to do things. And I don't know if you've seen all my content lately, that I've been putting out. That's where it comes from. Just thinking about sitting in that machine all day long, thinking about different ways to get more stuff out there. Because now it's out there. The fire's been lit. Now I got to stoke it and get it going again. Get it. Now everybody knows what it is, who I am. I say everybody. I think I've just scratched the surface still. Like when I went to TAC, and I'm in Texas. I live 35 minutes from TAC, San Antonio. That's where I live. I'm 35 minutes from there. And there was, man, I don't know, 100 plus people that never seen it, never heard of it, you know. So that's gonna be my my next venture, which I'm actually, I don't know if you're going to TAC Utah or not,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a booth at TAC Utah. It'll be my own booth. So that's gonna be big. That's gonna be a big event, for me. And like you said, it's the fact that I'm speaking from. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I'm speaking from experience of being. I've been bow hunting my whole life. I got pictures of me when I'm 5 years old, and I made a bow when I was five out of a PVC pipe and weed eater string, and I've got a bow that I'm shooting when I'm 5 years old. So I've been shooting a bow my whole life, man. I've been hunting my whole life. I've been in the pasture my whole life. I've been on ranches my whole life. So and, and that's where it comes from. Then my uncles and my cousins, they took me elk hunting back in 1999 in Colorado, and that's where that's where it stuck to me, man. Elk and mule deer, man, it's in my blood, man. I gotta have it. I just gotta have it every year. So yeah, man, solving the problem was the big one. That's how I. Yeah, a lot of people told me, aren't you worried about the competitors? Aren't you worried about your competitors? Well, I mean, I don't want to say anything about the competitors, uh, but they don't have what I have. One, two, 95% of the industry competitors in my niche are all Chinese made. So yeah, I mean, I mean, you can't beat American made. You're not going to beat it. I mean, it's just that's my next big, push. Now that I've got this soapbox now, this thing that's got me a little bit of a stage to talk now. So uh, yeah, man. So that's where we're at, solving a problem.
No, definitely. That's, when people, no matter what you're doing, there's going to be people that are like, "Aren't you worried about this? And aren't you worried about that?" And I've gotten to a point where I almost feel sorry for those people because I want to get in their heads and see what ideas they're giving up because of the concerns that they mention to me
Right.
about something that I'm doing, and they're not investing any time or money into it. It's
Yeah.
for me. I'm like, well, what do you care? You know what?
Right.
I appreciate your concern, but and yes, obviously, if you're thinking about it, I've thought about that, but it's not a concern of mine. You know,
Right.
there's a lot of things out there. So, for example, I work for First Form and First Form Outdoors. There's
Right.
tons of supplement companies out there. It's something that I absolutely love because as we're branching into the outdoors industry and it's already a saturated market, everyone knows of all the other companies out there.
Right.
Whenever we have people come up to the event and and they talk to us, and we've had people that say, what about this competitor, what about that, or f that competitor, and f them for this and that, and we're sat there, we listen to them, we're like, hold on, a rising tide raises all ships. And I firmly
Right.
believe that in any industry, if you
Yeah.
set the standard, which you've come up with something that so many people say they wish they would have thought of, but they weren't willing to invest that time and money and experience into. I mean, you didn't just invest time and money in the last 6 years. You've invested that time and money in all of your years of hunting. You
Right.
were creating new things as a kid with that PVC pipe and weed eater string that
Right.
most 5 year olds, they're not worried about. They don't think about doing something like that. And so,
Yeah.
going back to the idea of, you're creating something new, which, yes, the stabilizer market is pretty saturated, but every company offers something different. And like what you were saying, it's very much user preference. And there's some things that maybe some people, for some reason, they have another way to carry their bow and they're not concerned about that saddle. That's not the people that you're trying to reach out to, but it does spark an idea in their head on how they could maybe make theirs better. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's a big deal for competition. And I love that you're not disparaging or anything like that towards any other competitors, because like you said, you've got something that no one else has, and you're
Yeah.
very firm in your belief as to what it is that you have, and proof's in the pudding. I mean, you've got some big name people that actually do go out and hunt. They're not just bow Instagrammers, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they actually use the stuff. And
Right.
so the proof's in the pudding for what you've come up with, and it works. It really
Right.
does. And then the idea of American made behind that, eventually you're not going to have to drive a tractor or sit in a tractor all day. And
Right.
maybe that could be a bad thing, because then you're not going to be able to think as much. You're going to be worried about all your employees and everything else you've got going on.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but you're getting there, man. You're growing, and it's awesome to see. I love innovation. I love when people come up with these things, because I'm not a creative. I'm not. I'm very simple, and I'm very consistent. I
Right.
love my family, archery, fitness, and meeting new people, and that's really about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I commend you for coming up with something new in a saturated market. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. It was. Man, it was, I say it was tough. I mean, it really, it wasn't that tough if I look back at it. But then again, like I said, it got to a point where I kind of gave up on it a little bit because it wasn't getting the traction that I thought it would. Locally,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, cool, that's awesome, But there for a while, just and what I did, I got some advice from some of the cool guys in the industry. Travis T-Bone Turner. I mean, I'll throw his name out there. I sent him an email and with the Mach 3 model, which was just basic, had paracord wrapped around. He said, "Yeah, it looks cool, man. I would try to make it look better than it does, and make it do some other things." And I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of went back to the drawing board, and and that's where kind of where we're at today. So, I've taken a lot of advice, I've taken a lot of critiques, and I've still got customers today that in 2018, 2019, when I released the Mach 3 model, that have all of them. They have the Mach 3, they have the Mach 4, they have the Mach 5, they have Mach 6, they have all of them, and they love all of them. They're kind of like my little team of guys. My what do they call them, pro staff or whatever. But yeah, that's the industry. If there's not competition, we're not going to grow. You know, Regardless. So yeah, that's what I like about it. I think there's a lot of companies right now, stabilizer accessory companies. I know they're watching. I know they're seeing what I'm doing, just because of the big people that are using my product. I know they know who I am and what I'm doing, because when I go to these shows, they come to me and they say, "Yeah, we've been watching. We see you. We see what you're doing." And some of them like it. Some of them are kind of standoffish, as the outdoor hunting industry is. There's a lot of type A alphas in the hunting industry, and that's just it is what it is, man. I'm one of those guys too, type A alpha too, and I'm hardcore American, which a lot of these guys that are you know so-called competitors, they don't have ground to stand on when it comes to me, because they don't have American made products. All their stuff is Chinese made. There's a couple of them that have American made products, but they say they're American made, but they use offshore components. So
Mm.
I want to talk about that real quick. So this aluminum comes from Utah. The aluminum comes out of Utah. There's a mill in Utah where y'all are at, and all the plastisol, all this stuff is made in Texas. We're a big petroleum state. So this is plastisol PVC. It's a 70 durometer plastisol PVC. That's all made in Texas. So all the designing, all the engineering, all the machining, all the welding, everything you see here, everything's done in Texas. All of that, and then all these bolts, everything's done in Texas. So and I will not compromise 1 inch, even on a component. It's all going to be 100% American made, and that's what I'm really going to move into here pretty soon. So I'm going to start a new project that I want to talk to you about. Not necessarily going to be a podcast yet, but what I'm going to do is a project called Can't Beat American Made. And what I'm going to be doing is not even focusing on me. I'm going to focus on other companies within the archery, hunting, and outdoor community that have a product, have a service that's 100% American made, and I'm going to feature them. You know, that's how I can start giving back and giving more, to get everybody on the same page. Because, man, there's so many guys. When I was at TAC, they would walk up and they would look at this thing and then, what in the world is that? And then first thing I'd ask them, what kind of stabilizer you got on your bow? And they say, I don't know, whatever the pro shop put on it. And I said, well, I know them. I know what it is. I said, I'm telling you right now, that's a Chinese made stabilizer. Is what it is. And a lot of them. That was a lot of the reason why I got a lot of sales at TAC. I sold out at TAC, San Antonio, complete sold out, which was crazy. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did, and it was pretty cool. But that's where I stand my ground, man. I'm not going to compromise when it comes to uh, keeping it here. I mean, it's everything's going to stay here. And now I've teamed up with a really cool company, Classic Caps, and they're here in Texas. They build, manufacture, and all the materials are sourced for baseball caps. So now I'm going to be moving into getting some apparel for my company, and all of it's done here in Texas, 100% American made caps. Really cool company, cool people. It's a family-owned business owned by a lady here in Texas. She builds caps, and then I found there's only like 5 or 6 vertical mills that actually
Hmm.
cut and sew t-shirts, and this one's actually in California. So I'm actually going to now moving into apparel, like I said, but I'm going to be having American-made t-shirts. They're coming pretty soon too. It's going to have my logo, and then I'm going to be making some that have different stuff, just cool designs and cool, sayings and all that stuff, But I want everything to be, American made. It costs me more money. Don't get me wrong. It costs a lot of money to build this stuff here and to make this stuff here. But at the end of the day, I'm supporting American people and American products, and keeping it here. Which I don't know. I would think your outlook on American made is pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yep, I would agree. It's not easy to come across, but there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm just looking at my bow right here, and I mean, most of it is American made stuff. So
Right.
PSE
Right.
is sourced. I mean, they
Yeah.
make everything right there in Arizona. You've got the dialed
Right.
archery site, which is US made, and I know it's hard to come across a bunch of things that, like I know Origin had to go over this whole situation where you have to find the buttons and the buckles and the denim and all the other stuff and their boots, and there's so many things that it makes it difficult, which is sad that it's difficult and more expensive to make things here in the US, but especially the way, and I won't go down this whole rabbit hole, but just kind of a brief overview, the way things are going, it seems as though we have tried to become, I don't know, more of a global entity than what we should be, and we've forgotten about the people here in the U.S. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. Just it's good to put money where Americans are working, where it's creating jobs. Again, that's another big thing of mine with First Form and First Form Outdoors is everything's in Missouri. Everything that I mean, some of the stuff that they source, they can tell you they either own the farms or they know where it came from in the U.S. for the supplements,
Right.
and they're going to start manufacturing their own clothing. They've got multiple buildings that are being put up right now, and they're creating jobs. That's a huge deal for people. So yes, it costs more, but in the long run, bringing those things back here to the U.S. is definitely it's a big deal. And
Right.
I try and vote with my dollar whenever I can,
Right.
in those aspects. So it's definitely a big deal for sure.
Yeah. Man, I'm a big fan of First Form and Andy Priscilla and everything he's doing there. I listen to his podcast a lot. We're kind of aligned on his, I don't want to get into politics, but we're pretty aligned to where he looks at that, and
Mm-hmm.
his Live Hard program, 75 Hard program, and all his supplements and everything he's done and built. Man, it's pretty inspiring to
Oh
listen
yeah.
to, and I'm a big fan of his podcast. It's pretty cool, dude. But yeah, man, American made is like you talked about. Another thing that I'm doing, instead of, and it's hard for me because as a Texas entity, a limited liability company, uh, I've got to pay sales tax. There's some states that are tax exempt, so I got to pay a ton of sales tax. Okay, so I got to pay sales tax, and at the end of the year, I got to pay income tax. So what I do with all of that, instead of giving it to the powers that be, where they can give it to whoever they want to, I take that money and put it aside. And before the end of the year, I got to do taxes. I'll give it to a charitable donation or a charitable enterprise that I know where that money's going to go to. So, Mule
Mm-hmm.
Deer Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, all these conservation companies and entities and everybody, I'll take it and give them that money. That way I can write it off 100%, and I ain't got to give it to retarded people in the White House right now. So that's another thing about American made. You get a tax credit when you pay your employees. You get a tax credit if you donate it to a 100% charitable cause, and that's a 100% write off. So that's a lot of things that if you're a company, if y'all are listening to this, anybody that's got a company, if you're going to start a company, and I beg you to keep everything, buy American products, use American products, build American products, hire American people, donate to your charitable cause. that way. That, I mean, because we're taxed like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we're, everybody thinks we're free in this country, but we're not. If you look at it at the end of the day, we're taxed three quarters or more of what we actually make. So if you can take
Mhm.
that and give it back and put it back into our economy and back into your local community, it's gonna, at the long run, if we can all get everybody on the same page, that's where it's gonna make the difference, nationwide. So, and that's
Exactly.
another one of my ultimate goals.
Exactly. Exactly. No, it's definitely key and to vote and to put actions. When I say vote with your dollar, vote with your actions. Locally, and that's a big deal for me as well. Like I try and stay out of the news and stuff because, like in the long run, what really matters is my family and my community and the people that I bring around me,
Yeah,
and how I can give back to the community as well. And so that's a big deal. And so I do appreciate that everything that you've got going on is American made. You've sourced it. You can tell people where it's come from. That's a big deal. So kind of pivoting with that, you mentioned about the origin that you've got, so a black version and you've got the origin camo version of your stabilizers. Those are really the two options that you've got right now, which is pretty, I guess black is pretty standard across most stabilizers anyway. But why? You said you want to mention something about origin.
right.
What do you want to talk about there?
Well, to segue off of American made, I mean, right now on the stage of American made, I think at the top right now is Origin in my book, and especially in the outdoor hunting community, uh, they're definitely at the top of their top, their top shelf right now. But I think first Phorm and Origin, they're kind of like, neck and neck when it comes to that. I mean, they're two giants that people don't really even know about. I mean, they're still sleepers, but they're giants, man. Like even in Texas, I wear, everybody said, "You wear camo every day?" And I said, "Well, it's my favorite color." So, I get a lot of people asking me about the camo I wear, which is Origin, Raptor, and people love it. And I don't even tell them to look at the pattern. I said, don't look at the pattern. Don't look at that. Come here, I'm going to show you something. And I'll reach down and pull this tag out. And I said, look at this, made in the United States. That's why I'm wearing it. The pattern is just a byproduct of it being made in the United States. The pattern's awesome. They killed it on the pattern. So that was a reason I reached out to Origin. I wanted when I found out that Origin partnered with Hoyt and came out with the Origin model camouflage Hoyt bow, uh, and then with Cam Haines and Joe Rogan involved, which Cam is one of my I'm a big fan of Cam. I've been following him for man since 2009, I think. Uh, been on his journey for a long time. He's inspired me in a lot of ways. Uh, so when I found out about Hoyt and Origin partnering up, I'm like, man, I got to get in on that. I've got a cool, awesome product that's being run by one of the big guys already. I've got to get in there because it's just something that not even for sales. I just want to be part of it. I just want to be part of that American dream, that American goal they're getting after. So I was able to actually get in contact with Kip Folks with Origin, and he's like, "Yeah, man." He knew what it was already because he hunts with Cam, and he said, "Yeah, so get a hold of this guy," and he gave me some contacts, and I contacted them, and they knew what it was. I'm like, "Holy crap!" How many people are watching? You know, so they knew what it was, and this guy knew what it was, and they just didn't know where it came from or who I was. So when I reached out to them, I said, "Hey, man, I'd like to license or get permission to have my stabilizer coated in Origin camo to match the new Hoyt bow." And they didn't even think, they didn't look, they didn't hesitate. They said, "Send it." I said, "Holy moly, you serious?" They said, "Yep." I said, "Well, all right." So I got a hold of the guys I needed to, and now I have the Mule Stabilizer Mach 6, 10-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch. Soon I'll be having the 12 because I'm building more in the Origin Raptor Highland camo. I mean, this thing, and I mean, if you think about the journey, right, of this thing, it just to me, it's so freaking awesome. I didn't mention at the beginning. that when I was in high school, every single year I was in ag shop, and every single year I won state and county in FFA and ag shop for metal and wood projects. So I would build trailers, I would build barbecue pits, I would build, small metal buildings, I would build all kinds of stuff when I was in, ag shop high school. Uh, and I won a lot of awards doing that. And then also when I was in high school, I was a football player. So in 2001, when I graduated, I got elected to be on the United States All-American football team to play in London, England. So I was elected as the starting running back for All-American high school football team, and flew to London and played and won MVP as well. So when I when I went to London and to meet those people there, and they when they meet you, they knew who I was because they studied my plays and they studied my video and they studied me and how to catch me. Because I'm fun size. I'm only 5'7", 175 pounds, and I've kind of been that way since high school. But I was super fast and super strong. So they studied my videos and studied all that stuff. So when I got there, and they were just big dudes. I mean, just huge, big dudes, had beards. I mean, and I was a high school kid, and these dudes are huge, but they couldn't catch me because they just didn't. I mean, they didn't understand American football as well as we did. But to 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 see their reaction about how they were so humbled to meet an American is what really we take for granted that we're Americans and that we're in a free country and that we do the things we do. When you go somewhere else and you meet somebody that's like, holy crap, that's an American. That's where it really, in 2001, where it really hit me. And then, when I got back, we had September 11th, 2001 that happened. Uh, and then from there, that's where, it got even, deeper in my blood about, being an American. So, and it's just, it's been in there. It's been, I've been that way, my whole life. So, after 2000, September 11, 2001, uh, I went into public safety. So I've got still today, I'm a master peace officer, I'm a firefighter, and I'm an EMT. And now I've retired from all that, and I do it as a volunteer position. So I did do public service for 16, 17 years, somewhere around there. So to think about, now we have Origin that's trying to change, the American way, and how everything has gone overseas, and all of our manufacturing's got spider webs growing all over, and nobody knows how to build anything anymore, and you can't find anybody that wants to work. And that's the main problem. Is that people don't know how to build things. They just don't know how to do it. So it's to get on that team with Origin, to be able to build an American product that's completely different, that shocked the industry, that and then have teamed up with these guys that have this awesome new pattern with this awesome new goal, and their team. Man, it just it kind of chokes me up to think about it. I'm just it's just so cool, man. Then I got my Hoyt VTM 31 in Origin camo. I got doubled up stabs. People are asking, why do you got doubled up? Well, one, it looks cool as shit. I don't care what you're on right now. That bottom one, it's standing by itself. So that bottom one's also a stand. Uh, like, we talk about all the features. That's another feature. It stands up, by itself. So, when you grab that thing, it's just, it rests in your forearm. Everything's just nice and comfortable. You can carry it the other way where it rests on top of your forearm, nice and comfortable. But to have a stabilizer and have an accessory on your bow that helps you hunt and helps you be successful, and then have that thing in the back of your mind that it's 100% American made, backed by another 100% American company. No, you can't beat American made.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to sometimes, man. It's just what do you want to support, and there again, there's a lot of people out there that are looking for different things. And
Right.
like what you mentioned, and I love again that you mentioned that it's very much personal preference, but you have definitely explained why you've done it. And again, I'll keep reiterating this. I love the fact that you found a problem, You didn't let the naysayers get you down or steer you in a different direction, and you knew what you wanted to do, and you went and did it. So that's a huge deal. And for anyone out there that's in the market for a stabilizer, I highly recommend that you go and check these out because they are awesome. They're great. They fit right in the crevice right there of your elbow. You can get the shorter one if you want, and then add more length to it or weight or whatever you want. You can get the longer ones. Um, some people prefer the short ones just because either they're mounting it lower on the bar or on the bow, or they just don't want something sticking out like what you mentioned from their bar or their bow. And so, but yeah, so I'm just kind of to highlight again a couple of the features that really stand out to me. First and foremost is that it will fit right there in that part of your elbow forearm area. You can flip it both ways. So if you're carrying it, if you're a right-handed guy, you're carrying it right hand, it'll fit right in your elbow. If you flip it around and put it in your left hand, it'll fit on the front of your forearm, which is interesting because I don't usually carry my bow like that. But when I carried your bow, and put it that way, it was interesting because it actually felt really comfortable, and I didn't think that it would, to be honest with you. So those are two of the big main features, but also a lot of people are flipping it around and using it as a stand as well. Using it as kind of a bipod off the front of your bow, because it's got
Yeah.
those two little legs basically that are sticking out of if you flip it upside down. So there's a ton of ways that you can use the stabilizer. You could do two if you've got a bow that has two mounting positions off the front. I've seen a lot of people doing it like that, where the little legs or the saddle make it look like an X because you have two stabilizers, one that are, that has the saddle coming up and the other one that has the saddle going down. There's so many
Right.
different options. I highly recommend people go check that out. I'll leave the links down below where they can find you. But just kind of to wrap it up here, at the end, where can people find you if they're looking? Oh yeah, there you go, right there, the X.
That's it right
Where
there.
can people? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's why,
Where can
it stands
people?
out so much because it looks so different from anything else. That's why, everybody that sees it, like, what in the world is sticking out of his boat?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they're wanting to look you up, message you a little bit, or maybe even go and buy one of your bows or one of
Yeah,
your,
man.
sorry,
So,
bars?
the company name is Aim for a Passer. So that name came. I've been saying it all my life. Everybody's always used to pick on me all the time. They're like, when I tell them I went hunting or I killed a deer or whatever, killed a pig. Now, where'd you hit them at? And they're like, oh, let me guess, you aim for a passer. Yeah, I aim for a passer every single time. So that's something that I've said, all my life. So that just ended up being my company name. But aimforapasser.com, aim for a passer at Instagram, aim for a passer on Facebook. Everything's all the same. So, if y'all are interested, and also now YouTube, I'm going to be growing my YouTube channel and add more videos. And like I said, I'm going to start the Can't Beat American Made project where I'm going to be doing some reviews and featuring other American made companies and other guys that have products that are trying to grow and help them get on their feet and get on their way and do whatever I can to help everybody out, man. That's what we gotta do in America, especially nowadays, man. We're stronger together, and we gotta come together and see what we can do to change the outlook of what we're looking at right now because it doesn't look real good.
Exactly.
And
Yep. No, I.
another company right there, baby, Big Truck. That's have you heard of Big Truck? That's
Oh yeah.
Kent Folks owns that Big Truck Farms, man. I don't drink a whole lot of beer, but every now and then I'll have a cold adult beverage, and that's what I prefer is Big Truck. So it's pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah. So,
Yes,
and
sir.
I agree 100% with everything that you're saying there. Definitely go vote with your dollar, if that's something that you're up for. Again, I know there's not everyone that's in for that, but I would highly recommend that you take a look at how you can support your community, your country, and the people around you. And obviously, we're not saying to go just buy whatever because it's U.S. made, but if it's a good quality product that you're looking for and you believe in it, definitely go for it. And so that's really why I wanted to have you on, Danny, just because I agree with everything that you say. I love what you're doing, and again, I love the innovation. I love the different type of stabilizer that you've come out with. I think it's awesome that you got the patent so quick, and you're running with it, man. And I'm really enjoying it. So for everyone out there listening, I'm going to leave the links down below to all of the social channels that you can find Danny, his YouTube, as well as his site, so that you can go order a stabilizer if you're in the market. And again, Danny, thanks so much for hopping on, man. I really appreciate your time tonight. And for everyone out there listening, just like I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.
Appreciate it, man.